They have to be
the
found.
court has to ask that the police bring them, whether they are dead or alive. Everybody's allowed to talk.
You're allowed to talk or post. Or
like of course our democracy has evolved and whatnot,
and a territorial thing, so you're allowed to move to any part of Kenya. Of course, if you're going outside, you have to have a passport and all those things, but within Kenya you're allowed to go to any place that you want. But guess what? Hello and welcome to the Sisters in Law podcast. My name is Beverly Mokaya and I'm here with
Aquila Mokaya. In this podcast, we discuss matters law.
From talking about employment law to contract law to tax law to human rights and generally just matters law, we've got you covered.
Remember to like, share, subscribe and leave a comment down below.
So today we are going to talk to you guys about your rights.
Yeah.
Some people always say, I know my rights. Yeah, I know my rights. So you think that there's no way the government or the society can limit some of your rights. But on today's episode, we want to show you that there are some rights that the government cannot limit. They are called absolute rights. And there are others where, in order to protect other people, they can limit. Yeah. So I think we should start with the ones that cannot be limited at all. Like these ones are your absolute rights. Even if there's a state of emergency that has been declared in a country, the government or the society generally cannot limit those rights.
Yeah.
So these are.
We can start with the right to fair trial.
Yes.
Because you cannot condemn anybody unheard, regardless of whatever crime, however you feel, even if you caught them in the act, whoever it is that caught them and whatnot, you cannot condemn anybody unheard. Everybody has to go through the whole process of litigation. Either whether you go through mediation or litigation, you must get to a point where the person has been heard. They have given their own part of the story, and then there'll be somebody who will give their judgment or ruling on that basis. Yeah.
In short, you can't even see someone killing another person and then take them to prison directly.
Yeah, you can't.
You have to take them through the court system. Yeah. So the other one that cannot be limited is the right to habeas corpus. I'm sure if you've been watching the news lately, you know what habeas corpus is.
Dishing out that word every time.
So habeas corpus is where someone is, the police mostly, told to produce the person either dead or alive. For example, like the way there are missing persons here and there. So like let's say the IG or the DIG is called to court and they're expected to produce the person that has been missing either dead or alive. That's a right that cannot be limited in any way.
So in short, if somebody gets lost, they must be found.
Yes.
Like
in the hands of the police.
Yeah.
They have to be found.
The court has to ask that the police bring them, whether they are dead or alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could go to also servitude,
and
like slavery and servitude.
Yeah.
You cannot, I can't even explain it because I cannot fathom.
Yeah, I think some of these rights were placed there because of what used to happen in the past, slave trade and things like that. So there's no way you can enslave someone or put them in a state of servitude without any reason. Like there's no way with a reason, even with a reason, you cannot do that. Yeah, so that is a right that cannot be limited. And the other one is right to freedom from cruel treatment or torture or degrading treatment. Yeah, so you cannot, like the way you watch in the movies, the CIA is torturing people and things like that. That is not allowed in any circumstance.
Actually, my mind directly goes to maybe when you're arrested and then the police want to torture you into giving information. It's not allowed. Confessing.
Yes.
It's actually not allowed.
There's no circumstance that can allow that right to be limited.
So in short, when we say there's freedom from cruelty, it means that at no point, whether it's your employer, whether it's the government, whether it's your neighbor, there is no way your freedom to cruelty can be limited.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know the rights that you guys are waiting for us to mention.
It's right to life.
It's not limit. It's not absolute.
It's not absolute, actually.
It can be limited.
I actually thought it's absolute.
Yeah.
Me too.
It can be limited. And now I think we can start with that even as we transition. We should end with it. We should finish with it, yeah. Because it's very... Because that's like it's a myth that we need to deconstruct or something like that. Yeah, so the rights that can be limited, every other right apart from the four
ones
that we have mentioned
can be limited.
And the reason why the Constitution allows for such things is because you're not the only person living on earth in Kenya, it's not just about you. Sorry.
The world doesn't revolve around you.
The world does not revolve around you. So in protecting your rights or in enjoying your rights, the government has to make sure that I am protecting the other person.
Like your right can be enforced to the limit where it affects the other part.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I cannot enjoy my right in a way that violates your right. That's why the government comes in to limit such things. Yeah. So balancing individual rights and the public safety or the interest of the public and things like that.
You could go to the first one, freedom of expression, rights to expression or freedom of expression.
Yeah.
Everybody is allowed to talk.
You're allowed to talk or post. Or
like of course our democracy has evolved and whatnot. Yeah. But it is limited.
Yeah. The freedom of expression is limited.
Let's say, for example, I have posted on X about I'm not going to refer to a specific event, but if you know, you know. Yeah. I'm not supposed to in me trying to use my rights to expression. I'm not supposed to propagate acts of violence. Yeah. I cannot specifically say which act, but I should not be inciting, like saying you kill, you
so and so.
beat, you.
Yeah.
Or but now when it gets to that point, like hate speech and incitement and also acts of violence limit the right to expression. Yeah. Yes.
Because just say, for example, if you have ethnic hatred in a country, you know what happened in Rwanda all those years back. Yes. So you would not want such a situation in Kenya just because someone is allowed to express themselves the way they want. Yeah. Yeah. So freedom of expression is another right that is allowed in the Constitution, but it can be limited.
Yeah. It's actually limited largely. Yes. It is limited. Because it also goes to defamation. Yeah. In a way, but we'll have another
whole episode on defamation.
Talks about defamation.
And I think people know what defamation is.
Yeah. But also your freedom of expression I should not express myself so freely that it affects how the other lawyer, for example, survives or maybe lives. We'll talk about it in another episode.
Yeah, defamation. Yes. So the other one that can be limited, just a few examples, freedom of movement. You're allowed to go anywhere in the world. You're allowed to move around Kenya. Anyway, it's a constitutional, it's a jurisdictional issue and a territorial thing. So you're allowed to move to any part of Kenya. Of course, if you're going outside, you have to have a passport and all those things. But within Kenya, you're allowed to go to any place that you want. But guess what? It can be limited. For example, trespass. Yeah, you can't just private property. You just can't say that we are all Kenyans, so
you have the right to movement. So I can move into your property.
Exactly.
No, it doesn't work like that. It
doesn't work like that. And then something else, for example, during COVID, where the government has to, there has to be public safety or things like that. Public health safety or protection of public health. So that's why we used to have curfews and things like that. And if you are caught outside curfew hours, you will be arrested. So you might say, I'm allowed to move.
The right to movement and whatnot, but it is limited,
at this point.
So you cannot claim violation.
Yes.
Because also, let's say there's a state of emergency that has been declared in the country. It definitely affects your right to movement. And you cannot claim because the Constitution gives you the right to movement. At this point, you can claim violation. Of course, we say that when there's such a declaration, the Constitution has been suspended, but it still sort of limits, not violates now at this point because it's legal. It limits your rights to movement.
Rightly so.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you can move to
the other one is liberty. Yeah. Liberty is just like basic. For example, if you have killed somebody and the court has found you guilty, you cannot freely be allowed to move around. So you go to prison. And you're not allowed to go visit your family, things like that, you know. So you have the freedom of liberty just within the prison precincts. Yeah, you know.
That was funny.
I know, right? So now the other one, which is the dicey one, which we'll actually finish with, is the right to life. Wow. Yeah. The Bible says that. And
we are Christians. We are Christians.
Like every religion thing protects the sanctity and the sacredness of life. But the government, it does.
But they say that the right to life is the mother right, and out of it flows all other rights. Yeah. But it's still limited.
It's limited.
However much, like, it's the source of all other rights, because if you're not alive, you cannot enjoy movement, you cannot enjoy liberty and whatnot. Yeah. But it's still limited.
And imagine what the Constitution says. It says that the right to life is protected, just this is paraphrasing, unless limited by this Constitution or any other written law. It means it is not absolute. It means it's not absolute. So instances where your right to life can be limited. Number one, if self-defense, self-defense and defense of others. You can't come to me with a gun and I have a sword, alafu nikuache, you know, to just kill me. So if I want to defend myself, if I want to defend somebody else, for example, if a murderer comes and they want to kill my sister, I mean, I'd rather the murderer goes, you know. So I defense of others, also defense of property. It's not like property is more important than life, but you can't come and start destroying my property and I have a gun. It's a defense that someone can give in court. Like, I was trying to again, to what we said, you can only enjoy your right to the level where it does not limit the other parties enjoying their own right. So it specifically does not mean that if it's your right to life that you're enjoying, you can go around doing whatever you want and someone because not and now you're like trying to like all the things you're doing are protecting the other party's right to life. If your right to life is violating the right to property, like you see the I don't know if I'm getting you, but of course now when the Constitution is limiting these rights or when they're considering it in court, they have to look at things like proportionality. You know, which we'll talk about even as we talk about the next point, why right to life, how right to life can be limited. In fact, let's just say the other point and then we say proportionality. So this other point, I'm saying, let's say it as if we both know and it's only in my head. But anyway, right to life can be limited where, for example, an authority or police can use force. You know, where, for example, they find you killing somebody, or they find you, you know, maybe having armed conflict, or trying to run away maybe from prison or maybe like you are, you know, the opposite of peaceful demonstrations. Non-peaceful violent demonstrations. You know, things like that. In the event that happens, then the police or people in authority are like the authorities, the state authorities are allowed to limit your right to life. But now this is where proportionality comes in. You can't find somebody just, you know, and I think you know what I'm going to say. You cannot shoot an unarmed. Yes, you cannot, exactly. You cannot do it. It's not allowed. So proportionality you have to justify. And even when these guys go before IPOA is the policing the policing authority whereby the summons the police when they misbehave and things like that. So when you go before IPOA, you have to justify that the proportionality of the force I used is. The force I used is directly proportional to the offense or whatever this person was doing. And I think in my line of duty, I was justified to protect another life or to protect property or things like that. So like even when, you know, when they say that maybe gangs were trying to steal from somewhere and then a few of them were arrested and then others were gunned down. In this case, there's that proportionality principle is mostly obeyed because you realize that these gangs have arms. So now their right to life, at that point they are violating the right to property to others. So at this time the court is trying to, they are not the court, like the enforcers are trying to look at public interest and your own rights. Now the rights of these gang members. So if we say these gang members have the right, of course they need to be taken to court and whatnot, but would the police, the moment, but at this time the police needs to do what they have to do. Yes. We're not propagating. Actually another example. Propagating like brutality and whatnot. That's why we talked about proportionality. Now at that point, it's not brutality, by the way. When let's say these guys are threatening the lives of other people, or even when the police themselves feel threatened, rightly so. Like unajua si ile ya kusema tu ati we felt threatened, but like you know when like they were actually threatened, they had guns and things like this. There's this example I wanted to give. The magistrates. For example, like there was a case that happened recently. A magistrate was shot in one of our courts here by a police officer who it was just I can't even remember the details. I think the wife was on the stand and I think she was denied bail or something like that. So the police akatoa gun yake and shot the magistrate. So at this point, if there was another police officer around there with a gun, right before this guy pulled the trigger, he could be shot immediately on the spot, and it would be okay. You know, it would be actually okay. Line of duty, proportionality, blah 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 blah. Defense of others and defense of property. So that's it. I hope you have learned. So just know that in enjoying your rights, unless it's the 4 that we mentioned, you're not allowed to limit the enjoyment of rights of other people. Yeah. So I hope you have learned, and with that we are done. So make sure to like, subscribe, share,
leave a comment down below,
and see you on the next and the next and the next episode. Yeah.